Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our webinar today on the top 2 threats to birds. We're going to be learning how cats and windows really affect our bird population today. Again, thank you for joining us. If you can just figure out how to use the chat function, we'll go over Zoom in a little bit. But we want to know a little bit about who you are, how many people are watching with you, and what was the last really cool bird that you saw. So feel free to type that into the chat window. For one, we love to hear where people are from, and we also love to see what kind of birds or hear about what kind of birds you're seeing. But this also helps with our funding for our programs like this. We need to know how many participants we have. So while you're logging on and figuring out Zoom, feel free to type this question that's on your screen on the chat, and we'll see if y'all are able to do that. And if not, it's okay. We'll figure it out in a little bit. So thank you all for joining us. Again, we're just going to get to know you all a little bit better before we get started with our presentation today. So in the chat function, please type in where you're from, so where you are right now, how many people are watching with you, and what was the last really cool bird that you saw. Spring migration is just starting, so maybe some of us are seeing some really cool birds. I know I was actually just out in Florida, so I have so many cool birds I could share with you, but we don't need to do that today. Awesome. Sharon from Portland, a blue heron, bush tits in the yard. Great. Thank you all for using that chat function. It's so cool to see where people are tuning in from, especially when they are from out of state. That's always so cool to see. So feel free to keep answering this question, but I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for our presenters to teach you all about how windows and how cats affect our bird populations. So I'm going to throw it over to Anna, who's one of 3 presenters today, and she's going to get started with our webinar today. So again, thank you all for joining us, and I hope you enjoy this webinar.
Hello everyone, so like Tyler said, I'm Anna and today I'm joined by Avery and Jenna, and we're the 3 Girl Scouts that are going to be giving this presentation today on birds, windows, and cats. However, before we really get started, we're going to go over 2 things first. We're going to go over some Zoom controls in case you don't know how to use them, maybe you're not that familiar with them. And then we're actually going to take a pre-survey and get a baseline for what you guys know. I'll explain more about that in a second. So first of all, let's talk Zoom. So on your screen, you should have a toolbar like this on the bottom. Over here, as you can see, you have your video and microphone controls. When there's a red line through either of those, that means it is off. We ask that you guys stay muted during our presentation to make sure that everyone can hear us. So if you don't know how to open the Zoom chat, although a lot of us seem to already be there, you just need to find where it says chat over here and click it. And then your Zoom chat will either appear on this side here or somewhere else on your screen. Now, feel free to use the Zoom chat to type in any questions, or if you need help with anything, you can use the Zoom chat basically just to communicate and with everyone else. Oh, and if you are on a handheld device like a phone, your toolbar is going to look a little bit different, but it should look something like this. So I mentioned now that we're going to take a pre-survey. This presentation is part of a Girl Scout Gold Award, and part of our projects as Girl Scouts is we need to measure what the impact our presentation has on people. So Jenna has put the link in the chat. I recommend that you exit your full screen out of Zoom before clicking on that link. So anyway, that's that's probably a good idea just because sometimes all those windows can be complicated. But we're going to take a minute or 2 to fill out this pre-survey so you guys can show us what you know. And as I said, we want to measure what you guys we're going to measure what you guys have learned from this presentation. So we're actually going to be we're actually going to be taking the same exact survey at the end of this presentation also. So we're going to take 2 minutes to do that. If you have any questions or need any help, please let us know in the Zoom chat and we'll be back in a moment. All right, everyone, I'm going to officially call you guys back. If you're still working on that pre-survey, feel free to keep working as I start talking. So again, my name is Anna, and with me today is Avery and Jenna, and we're going to be going over this presentation on the largest issues for birds, which are windows and cats. For our presentation today, we're actually going to first focus exclusively on windows, then we're going to focus exclusively on cats. That said, so in the beginning half of our presentation, we are going to explore the statistics behind bird window collisions. We're going to learn why windows are a problem in the first place, and then we're going to wrap up with some solutions on how to bird proof our windows. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. And now we're going to officially get started. So Avery, please take it away.
All right. So now we're gonna look at some of the statistics. So looking at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they've said that roughly 599,000 birds die per year from windows. That's a really kind of scary big number for that. And then looking at the two pictures on the right, you can see some really great big tall buildings and then some shorter ones. And then you can go ahead and type in the chat, which one do you think causes a larger percentage of those bird deaths? Cool. Just gonna give you 1 second to do that. All right, so going off of the couple of answers that we've got so far, sorry if not everybody got to type their answers in just yet, but we've got a couple of answers for each side. Somebody said that the smaller buildings, probably because there's more of them. A couple people said the taller ones. And so it's largely believed that the taller ones are the main problem, and that's actually not true. The high-rise buildings actually cause less than 1%, and the low-rise cause a lot more than that. And that is because there's a lot more of them. When you think about it, there's really not very many skyscrapers, and there's a whole bunch of little suburban homes. And just so you know, a high-rise is lower than 3 stories, or high-rise is over 3 stories, sorry. And then low-rise is lower than 3 stories. So that's just some of the statistics. And now we're going to dive into why birds hit windows. Go ahead, Jenna.
So, why do birds hit the windows? Well, the windows reflect the trees, grass, a lot of things. And Anna's gonna show you this video that shows that. So as you can see, the windows reflect the trees, everything, and the birds take that literally, and they don't understand what a window is. So they go right towards that window and end up running into it. So also, if you have 2 corner windows, a bird could see an actual tree through the windows and collide with them by trying to get to the actual tree. So windows kind of are a little bit bad.
So how do we solve this? Well, let's look at this problem from a bird's eye point of view. As we just learned with Jenna, birds take everything they see literally. So when a window reflects something like a tree, a bird thinks that that tree actually exists and that's a place they can get to. So the solution is we want to form a barricade of sorts over the surface of the window that tricks the bird into thinking they can't fit and get to that imaginary space. So that is basically the whole idea is we want to make it where the birds can't fit and get to that imaginary space. That part is really important. If that doesn't make a lot of sense just yet, don't worry, we have a lot of different visuals coming up that are going to help you understand what we mean.
So that barricade that Anna was just talking about is called a bird preventative. It's kind of a material that's applied to the surface of a window to break up its reflective surface so that the bird can't fit. And it's an overarching term. It doesn't just describe one type of bird preventative, as Anna and Jenna are going to show us in a couple slides. And it just helps birds to not smash into windows, basically, is the idea. And so the rules to go with bird preventatives, there's the 2x4 rule and the 2x2 rule. And bird preventatives can go either horizontal or vertical or both. And when it's both, you want the 2x4 rule. And what that means is that you want a 2x4 space, as you can see in that picture there, so that the birds don't think that they can fit, because they can kind of figure out based on like looking at it that they can fit or that they can't fit. And if it's smaller than 2x4, then they know that they can't fit. And so we always want to use that so that the birds won't run into our windows. If there's smaller birds like hummingbirds, then we want to use the 2x2 rule. 2x2 rule is generally more effective, but it isn't as cost effective because you have to spend more money on materials. So generally the 2x4 rule is fine, but if you notice a lot of hummingbirds running into your windows, then you're going to want to go with the 2x2.
So there are types of bird preventatives. We have bird tape, and they can withstand a range of temperatures, and they are pretty durable. We have printed glass. You can get glass that is patterned with dots, although it's a little bit more expensive. Window screens also work, just regular ones. and and send one currents also work. They are basically vertical lines of paracord that are strung 2 inches apart, and these can be purchased or homemade. All these fit the 2x4 rule, and they divide the reflective surface of the window.
Now on the left here, we have another example of bird tape. So remember the bird tape that was on our previous slide? It was blue, it came in squares, and it was frosted. And the bird tape here, it's striped, it's white, and it's translucent. Our point in showing you guys 2 different types of bird tapes is that there's many different types of tapes that will suit your individual needs. For example, if I have a really nice view that I don't want to obscure, I would probably want to use this bird tape over the other one since it is translucent. Another solution is decals, which are basically stickers that you put onto the window. Now, decals come in a bunch of different shapes and sizes. They don't have to be shaped like birds to prevent or to reduce, bird window collisions, because it's not actually the bird shape that's discouraging birds. It's the fact that these decals are breaking up the surface of the window that's reducing those collisions. So you don't have to have decals that are in a shape of a bird. You can have them in anything you want, basically, whatever they have. Just make sure that your decals are evenly spaced out in our example here, so that they actually reduce bird window collisions. Now, our last example is window paint. When I say window paint, we're specifically referring to tempera paint, which is non-toxic, and long-lasting. I've actually used window paint before, as my dad just said in the chat. Our problem is we have a big giant glass back door on our house, and a lot of birds were running into them. We were actually getting perfect bird imprints of doves where we could see each individual feather in their face and clearly identify them as doves. So it was a big problem. There was also one bird imprint that I remember we thought might have been a hawk, but we weren't really sure. Anyway, our back door was a huge problem. So we went to the store. We got some window paint, we scrawled all over it, made sure there wasn't any too big gaps, and we reduced our our bird glass collisions effectively. Now, 2 more notes before we move on. You always want to apply your bird preventatives to the exterior side of the window. And this is because sometimes a reflection is so strong on a window that if you apply something to the interior side, it's not always visible. So for that reason, we want to make sure our bird preventatives are on the exterior side. That's the outer side of the window. Now, one last note, all of the solutions we went over today on this slide and our previous slide have been approved and recommended by the American Bird Conservancy. So all of these solutions are known to work, and you can use any of them to help reduce bird window collisions.
All right, so as Anna just said, there's a lot of different types that can be applied to your windows, and they can also be applied incorrectly. So now we're going to look at what not to do and a couple examples of that. On the picture on the left, you can see these really neat decals that have been applied to the outside, so that's all good. But they're kind of in like this S shape, and there's like 6-inch gaps in between some of them. Anna's pointing them out with her mouse, and so you can just see that, you know, if I'm a dove, let's say, then I'm looking at that, I'm going, wow, I can see the tree on the other side, and I want to go over to that space, and there's that great big space, so I would be able to fit. However, we know that that's a glass door, and so I'm just going to smash right into it, so that's no good. Same with on the other side, there's just really big gaps, and so it's just not going to be effective as a bird preventative. So the birds are going to try to get through, and it's just not going to work. So stick to the 2x4 rule, and all will be well.
Sorry. So how to find the problem windows. What you can do is we should try to bird-proof every window in your home, but that doesn't always work. So you can record how many bird deaths there are, bird imprints, or how many times you hear the bird run into the window. Once you have your data, you can apply some of the bird preventatives. Another way to find the problem windows, you could go and look outside at the windows, see what the reflection looks like. Look at it from the bird's point of view.
To reiterate, birds don't understand windows. They take everything they see literally. So when a window has a reflection of something like the sky, they think that sky actually exists and that imaginary place is actually somewhere they can go. So we solve bird window collisions by tricking the bird into thinking that they can't fit using the 2x4 rule. Now, if you have problems with smaller birds like hummingbirds, you're actually going to want to use the 2x2 rule. Now, these two rules, the 2x4 and 2x2, they're the most effective, but you can also just supply your bird preventative horizontally or vertically, and that is still very effective. Some of the examples of bird preventatives we went over today are mosquito screens, window paint, decals, bird tape, Zen wind curtains, and fritted glass. Remember, we want to apply our bird preventative to the exterior side of the window. Now, ideally, you would apply a bird preventative to every window in your home. However, we know that's not always realistic for a number of reasons. So instead, we ask that you find the most problematic windows using the techniques Jenna just described, counting all of the dead birds you find outside a window, recording if you hear any thuds, and also going outside, looking at your windows, thinking, what are they reflecting? And then once you've gathered all of that data, you can decide which windows are the most problematic and which ones you want to apply a bird preventative on.
All right, so now we are going to move on to the cat portion of this presentation. So cats are the biggest problem for birds, the number one problem that's human related, aside from, of course, habitat destruction, which we can't really measure very well. So cats are a huge problem. And so having cats in your home or outside of your home in particular, we would just want to make sure that we can help them not hurt birds. So we're going to look over why they're problems, look at the statistics, and how they can coexist with birds.
So first we're gonna look at the statistics. A study was done in England that recorded how many dead things 78 cats brought home. They killed about 1,100 animals in 1 year, not including the things that they ate or buried.
So as you can see with that study Jenna just talked about, cats not that great for birds. And so we have a question for you guys, and you guys can just type your answers in the chat really quick. The question is, how many birds do you think cats kill per year? Now, notice that we're asking for the total number of birds killed by the total number of cats, and the statistic we're actually talking about today only applies to North America. So go ahead, throw in some guesses, don't be shy, and we'll see how your guys' guesses compare to the real number. So I'm still waiting for a few to come in. Oh, we have 1,000. That's a pretty good guess. Does anyone? Oh, we have 20,000. Do we got any more guesses? We have 10,000, 25,000, 500,000. Oh, you guys are going in order today. Carly says 1 million. Oops, oh, I'm so sorry. The slides were going crazy. Anyway, so the answer is 2.4 billion birds are killed just by cats in a single year. So you guys tried really hard. Thank you for all your guesses, but you guys aren't right. I think with the closest we came was 1 million. Well, we're not talking millions, we're talking billions. So, as you can see, cats are a huge problem for birds. Putting habitat loss aside, which we can't really measure, as Avery mentioned, cats are the #1 cause of human related bird deaths. You'll remember that this presentation top two threats, right? Cats and windows. And windows cause annually 599,000 bird fatalities. And that's a big number, but that number does not compare to 2.4 billion. Cats kill almost 70% of birds that die because of some human related factor. And unfortunately, that's not all. According to the American Bird Conservancy, cats have contributed to 63 extinctions, not only among birds, but that also includes mammals and reptiles. So as you can see, cats are not, they're a big problem for birds, but they're also a big problem for other little animals. So they're an issue that needs to be addressed.
So that big dramatic slide change just then made it look a whole lot like the cats are the bad guys. But we want to remember that this is just an instinct for them. The cats that you have sitting on your lap that you're playing with while you're watching this Zoom call, they have the same instincts, or at least similar instincts, to the great big cats that you see in the feline exhibit at the zoo. You know, they all have those hunting instincts, and it's just something that's a part of them. We're not trying to get rid of that part of them. We're trying to help we're just trying to help them coexist with birds as they are. And so that's something that we're about to look into. Go ahead, Jenna.
Let's look at the cat side of the story. We know that the cats are bad for birds, but birds are also pretty bad for cats. Cats can get diseases, cats can get the tapeworms, and they are in dangers of cars and any predators that are around your area. They also tend to live a shorter life, about 2 to 5 years. But also, indoor cats aren't as healthy either. They are stressed and bored inside, and their overall welfare isn't as good as an outdoor cat's. This is because they're not getting enough stimulation. So what can we do that is good for the cats and the birds? Do you guys have any guesses? You can type them in the chat.
All right, anyone have any guesses? I'm sure you have at least one. Even if you aren't sure, take a shot. Let's see what you guys are thinking. Carly says supervise your cat when it's outside. Beth says feed outdoor cats more. Very interesting. All right. Oh, we also have an indoor climbing area, keep cats busy inside. So all good ideas. I'm actually gonna go over the solutions now, and we're gonna go over the ideas that do work that you guys had. And I actually saw some ideas in the chat that actually don't work, so we're gonna be sure to go over those as well. So as I said, moving on to the solutions. So today I'm gonna go over 3 solutions for outdoor cats and then 1 solution for indoor cats. We are going to start on the left here. On the left is a catio, also known as a cat patio. I saw that someone put it in the chat. Basically, as you can see, it's an enclosed structure where your cat is allowed to roam freely within, yet there's a physical barrier between them and any birds or other animals that they might catch. Catios can be purchased or homemade, and you also want to decorate your catio with shelves, a cat bed, maybe a plant. I know that my cat really likes to chew plants, to make sure that, you don't want it just to be an empty cage. You want to fill it with stuff to keep your cat happy. Another cool thing about catios is if you have a kitty door, you can put your catio right outside the kitty door, so your cat can still come and can still come and go as they please, yet they're safe themselves because they're away from other dangers, and birds and other small animals um, are also kept safe. Now, our second solution is training your cat to walk on a leash. Now, leash training a cat is difficult. It's quite the commitment, but it's not impossible. And I think you'll also find it to be a very entertaining experience. So, I'm actually going to kind of accidentally call out my own sister right now. Sorry, Carly, I didn't know you were coming though. But she's actually leash training our cat right now. And one of the steps in leash training is you have to put the harness on your cat while they're inside so they can get used to wearing the harness, basically. And I will never forget how our cat reacted. So when Carly first put the harness on, of course, our cat first just laid there because she's a cat and she wasn't having it and didn't feel like moving. So she kind of had her moody moment there. But once she decided, oh, I want to go and walk, she took a few steps, was kind of peering around, not so sure. So she took a few steps and then she jumped 2 feet in the air, taking us completely by surprise. But it didn't stop there. Our cat, her name is Coda, she took another few steps and jumped in the air again, taking us, we were jumping too. So we're like, oh, whoa, calm down, cat. But anyway, for about a solid 10-15 minutes, our cat was bouncing around the living room until she finally got used to her harness. So leash training a cat, it's quite a commitment. It's difficult. Perhaps it's not for everyone, but I think you'll also find it to be a very fulfilling experience. And afterwards, you can walk with your cat on a leash. And how cool is that? And yes, Carly, she was not that happy about the harness, but then she got used to it and we moved on to the next stage. All right, so our next solution is something called a scrunchy collar. It's on the left there. You can see that basically it looks like a clown collar. It's big, it's bright and colorful, really obnoxious looking actually. So we're gonna talk about this. When I say scrunchy collar, really hear collar cover. It's actually a fabric tube that you put your cat's collar in, and yeah, it's a collar cover. I keep calling it scrunchy collar because that's more easy to say while I'm talking about it, but it's actually a collar cover. Now, the science behind the scrunchy collar is that a lot of songbirds and other little animals are very sensitive to color. So the scrunchy collar basically acts as a big warning sign, like, hey, there's a predator here, and helps prey animals notice the cat before the cat is able to hunt them. Now, scrunchy collars, they're most effective when they're red or rainbow, and one study found them to be up to 87% effective. So they are a good option. Now, you might be thinking, well, this scrunchy collar, it really works for birds and other animals, so my cat can roam around freely as long as they're wearing this collar cover, right? Well, not exactly. Because the thing is, while the scrunchy collar is protecting birds and other animals, your bird has no, not your bird, I'm sorry, your cat still has no protection against other dangers like cars and coyotes. So what we recommend you do if you want to use this collar cover is that you let your cat roam outside in your backyard or something like that where other dangers aren't as present. Now we're going to talk about indoor cats. So you can have an indoor cat, you just have to do it right. You'll remember that Jenna said that indoor cats are typically stressed or bored. And this is because people think cats are easier to take care of. There's this misconception that cats are easier to take care of than dogs, and it's not true. Your cat needs as much as love and attention as any dog does. So we're going to go over how to provide enough mental stimulation for your cat while they're inside so they can be happy. There's 2 steps. First, you want to catify. By catify, I mean you want to have a variety of cat towers and cat toys, cat shelves, and whole variety of different cat things, so your cat is able to explore and or play. Now that's only step 1. Step 2 is to play with your cat. You don't all sorry. So we also want to make sure though that we're not just playing with our cat, but that we're also playing with our cat enough. That really matters. The general guideline is to play at least 4 times a day with your cat in 10-minute intervals, so 40 minutes in total. So you can have an indoor cat, but to make sure that they're truly happy, you want to catify and to play with them enough. Now, I'm going to address some of the things that I saw in the chat. So, bell collars, we're actually going to, Avery is going to talk about in a moment, but I also want to talk about feeding outdoor cats more. So, feeding your outdoor cats will not actually decrease the amount of animals that they will catch. There's been several studies on this that as far as cats are concerned, it's instinct and they don't necessarily have to be hungry to hunt. So that's not a solution technically, like as these ones are solutions as far as cats are concerned. And anyway, now Avery is going to talk about bell collars.
So bell collars, they are a common misconception. A lot of people think they work well. And there's even this folk tale from a long, long time ago that's all about the mice belling the cat. And ironically, it really doesn't work very well at all. Research has shown that cats can actually move with the bell collar so that it doesn't make any noise. They're really graceful creatures and they can kind of figure out how to adjust themselves so that they can still be sneaky. So in general, bell collars are mostly ineffective. They don't do anything to harm the cat aside from maybe getting annoying sometimes. But yeah, so just don't rely on bell collars to stop your cat from hurting birds.
So, in conclusion, overall, cats are a pretty large problem. They cause the most human-related bird deaths, and they have contributed to about 63 extinctions. When cats are outside, have catios, cat scrunchies, and cat leashes. You don't want your cat freely roaming around. They can contract diseases. They aren't naturally wary. They aren't naturally aware that roads are there, and they usually live shorter lives. So use at least one of the options if you want your cat to be outside. And if you want indoor cat, have stuff like toys for indoor simulation and provides and remember, cats aren't easier to take care of than dogs. So make sure you dedicate time to your cat. And bell collars are not a good option. They don't effectively reduce bird deaths. And now we are going to end today by watching a video that shows that training a cat to walk on a leash is possible.
So that is officially the end of our presentation. So what we're going to do now is Jenna's going to be dropping the link to our post survey in the chat. Our post survey is the exact same survey that you guys took before this presentation. So really what we're looking for is we want to see what you guys got from this presentation. So we're going to take a minute or two to do that. After you guys are done, we're actually going to have a Q&A session where you guys can ask any questions that you have. Anyway, we're going to do this post survey first. We're going to have about 2 minutes. Thank you guys so much for filling it out, and we will be back in about 2 minutes. All right, everyone, I am going to call us back for one last time. If you're still finishing up the survey, feel free to continue working on that. But now we're going to have a Q&A session, basically. So if you guys have any questions on what we went over today with birds or windows, or any questions for us as Girl Scouts, we are all ears. We're happy to help however we can. So we are going to do our Q&A basically. And let us know if you have any questions in the chat. We will be here until all the questions are answered, and then Tyler will actually be officially wrapping up our time together today. So yes, also unmute if you also want to. All right, I'm not seeing any questions come through yet. Okay, so first question, how do I speak to my neighbor about scrunchy collars for his cat? So you mean how to convince them basically, I'm assuming? So what I would do, yes, what I would do personally is I would, um, I would open up with our statistic that we also started up with, like our 2.4 billion. You could have this person, like, hey, how many birds do you think cats kill each year, and have them guess. And then, hey, it's actually this number. Birds are a huge problem. Like, can you please do this? And some other things that you can tell them about the scrunchy collar is while a scrunchy collar looks very it looks weird, I guess is the way you could say it. It actually doesn't bother the cat. Some people worry about scrunchy collars getting tangled, if your cat's out roaming around. And how you fix that is you actually need to buy a collar that's, I think they're called catch and release. So when it snags on something, no, they're breakaway collars, excuse me. So when the collar snags on something, it breaks away from the cat, pulling on it. And, the scrunchy collar is a collar cover. And so then the scrunchy collar also breaks away. And actually, we're going to send you guys a thank you email tomorrow, and we're going to have a link to the scrunchy collars and all the other solutions we talked about today, including all of the window stuff. We'll have a link to catios. And so we're going to be sending you a link to the scrunchy collar. So we have a question. Are there some bird types that are more likely to run into windows? So I don't know a specific fact off the top of my head, but my answer to that is yes, because it depends on the window size, right? Like if it's a really small window, like you just have like a little cubbyhole window, larger birds aren't going to be that apt to run into it because they know that, hey, I can't fit into that window, so that's not a good idea. I'm not going to try that. So I don't know any stats immediately off the top of my head, but all of your general backyard birds, so your finches, your woodpeckers, your hummingbirds, all of those type of birds, all of those guys are prone to run into windows since they are small enough for most windows. And then we have another question. Are certain cat breeds more likely to kill birds? Not that I know of. I actually haven't looked up that specific question. That's a good question. So I don't know personally. However, I would think no, because cat breeds, they're different, but I mean, they're all cats, right? And they all evolved from the same other ancestor. So I'm thinking no, but that's also something that you'd probably have to look up. And then Sharon sent a photo, and have you seen the cat backpack? I don't know, but apparently I'm downloading that photo now. But so if you guys have any more questions, feel free to also throw them in. If you want to know what the cat backpack looks like, it looks exactly like it sounds like. It's a backpack where your cat's actually in the backpack and there's like a screen over them. I've also seen cat strollers. So if you want to, oops, I'm on the wrong tab, sorry. If you want to, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, if you want to still if you still want your cat to be able to go outside, but maybe leash training doesn't really work for you, you could also use the cat backpack or a cat stroller to make sure they get that mental stimulation. And yeah, that cat backpack is very cute. Does anyone have any more questions or any stories you want to share or anything else like that? And remember, you can also unmute if that would work better for you.
All right, looks like you all did such a great job presenting that people are probably digesting all of the information. So I'm just going to wrap it up for everyone. So again, thank you so much, Anna, Avery, and Jenna for presenting on this topic. The whole cat topic is a sensitive topic, and it is something that's really important, especially for us at the Bird Conservancy, that we help educate folks. Again, we can't change everyone's mind about outdoor cats, but if you look and remember the statistics, cats are a huge problem, and they are killing a lot of birds. So finding the best way to talk about it and all the solutions that we went over today, that's a great way to bring it up to your neighbors. This is just the first presentation that we have from Anna, Avery, and Jenna. We have 3 presentations coming up each Wednesday for the next 2 more Wednesdays at the same time. The next presentation will be all about the bees. So bird houses, bird feeders, and bird-friendly backyards. Was that it?
And bird baths too.
And bird baths, all the bees. So if you're looking to, really get your backyard bird friendly for this upcoming spring migration, that's going to be another great webinar to attend. And the registration is required for each webinar. So you can look for a link on our website or on our Facebook, and you can register there. And we will be posting this recording on our YouTube channel. So you can go onto the Bird Conservancy of the Rockies YouTube, and you will be able to see it there. And you can also send it along to anyone else that would like to watch this recording. So again, thank you so much, Anna, Avery, and Jenna, and thank you all for attending. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you can help us make the world a little more bird friendly in the future. So I hope you all have a great evening, and we'll hopefully see all of you next Wednesday to learn all about all the bees.
Thank you for having us, Tyler.
Awesome. All right, everyone, have a good night.